What I'm going to talk about today is really the evaluation of the structure of an organization, or the evolution of a structure of the kind of organization that RDI is in the face of changing needs and opportunities, changing local capacity, and changes in the political environment, which have been pretty massive in Oregon over the course of our existence. I hope that what I say will validate the importance of the developmental cycles as well as production cycles, which is the same for communities. Sometimes you're building capacity, sometimes you're implementing projects, and RDI's story is the same way. And hopefully it will also demonstrate that there's a cumulative impact of this work. When you start and you have a crisis economically, it's sometimes very hard to be patient and see that there's things you can do in the short term and other things that you may not see the results for 10 years. But you can definitely see it when you look back. Okay, well, I first want to give you context for when RDI was established, because as I learned about your area and the crises that you're facing, as well as the opportunities that you see just ahead of the horizon, there was a lot in common with the time period in Oregon when RDI was established. So the context in which we were created was a very tough time. People were feeling very buffeted by forces outside their control. The legislative environment was really dominated by the east side of the country in terms of the suits were all being filed back east and the impacts were all in the west. And so there was really a sense of hopelessness and a sense of anger and a sense of what can we do? So within the Oregon Economic Development Department at the time, one person started a small program called the Community Initiatives Program, and it was designed to go into small communities that had experienced a timber closure and talk with folks there and say, well, what about the future? Where do we go from here? And it evolved into a more formal strategic planning process with small communities. It was funded internally through the department for a couple of years, but you imagine one person is not a lot of manpower being funded. And then in 1991, we were created as a act of the legislature as a nonprofit. So Rural Development Initiatives was spun off as a nonprofit with the goal of being able to be a little bit immune to the political cycles and also to be able to leverage other investment. There was a vision by our founding board members of what they wanted to see. First of all, that vision that we still have to say over and over again, that rural communities matter to the health of the state of Oregon. We had a vision that economic development was going to be part of what we did, but that the social side of communities also needed development. We had a vision not only of what was, but a vision of what could be. This is actually a quote from one of our founding board members who established a family ranch natural meat company called Oregon Country Beef, well before this sort of local food systems thing was really on the horizon. And the vision was that we may not think certain types of businesses are possible in the communities we're living in, but if we do something, they are. And part of our early vision was that it will take time and that patience was needed. As I mentioned, our funding was a line item in the state budget, and in 1997, the legislature declared that that was the last year they were going to have line items in the budget at all, not just for RDI, but for any organization. And so we were out of the budget by 1999, except for special projects. And we almost went out of business in 1992. Again, like a business or a community, there are times when you feel like you're on the edge of both greatness and obscurity, and that was one of those periods of time. And over time, you can see we've been able to develop lots of foundation, philanthropic resources, contracts with philanthropic organizations, and fees for service. And our budget grew from $500,000 annually to $3 million annually over this period of time. And we have begun to play a role not only as a provider of training, but also as an intermediary, raising funds for initiatives based in rural areas where there isn't the capacity to pull all those resources together and then distributing it out and acting as a convener. So part of our growth has been driven by money that we're passing through to some of our partners. So during this time period, we developed lots of new partnerships, particularly university-based partnerships. That took a while to emerge. We have a program in Oregon called Resource Assistance for Rural Environments. It's graduate-level students who are placed in rural communities for a year as staff at a cost of about what a third it would cost if you actually went out to hire somebody. We worked with the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network to bring angel investor networks into rural areas. We worked with multiple foundations. Philanthropy was pretty much the driver of this. One of the big program initiatives at this time, our leadership development certainly grew. We work in about 30 communities at a time every 6 months. And we have a staff that lives in the rural areas. They work out of their homes, and they deliver this leadership training. And that is our partnership with the Ford Family Foundation. And we organized a collaborative statewide that involved 5 target areas of the state to pursue a Kellogg Foundation demonstration grant for supporting entrepreneurship. Right now, though, one of our challenges is trying to rebuild the rural-urban connection in Oregon, because from a policy perspective, the rural population is less than 50% of the voters in the state, and if we don't have more common understanding of the interconnections, we don't get things passed. This is sort of the essence of it, I think, is that thinking about the context in which RDI was started, it was a hopeless time. It was we have no control over our future time. It's our children are leaving, and we're encouraging them to do so. There's no future in our communities. And I could quote 100 different people who said the same thing, that rediscovering that hopefulness about the future and having the skills and the knowledge and the networks to actually make something happen is really the reason for what we do, and you can see it on the ground.